Welcome everyone.
Is it working?
Yes.
Excellent. I'm Shannon Reese-Silverman, a co-president with the League of Women Voters, Arlington Heights, Mount Prospect, Buffalo Grove, Ealing, Prospect Heights, and Elk Grove Village areas. We thank the Arlington Heights Memorial Library, our fabulous library, for its wonderful partnership helping bring this and other candidate forums here today to you for free and a bunch of other free programs to you. We hope during the next 45 minutes you feel more informed and that you leave ready to make a plan and go vote. A couple of preliminaries before I turn it over to our MC. Please silence your cell phones and all other devices. For the duration of the forum, we have limited time and out of respect for the candidates and your fellow audience members who took time to be here, we ask that you hold your applause until the end of the forum. No questions will be taken from the floor. And no interruptions, heckling, personal attacks, or other disruptions are appropriate conduct at these forums. Together in our hometown communities, we can and we will engage in civil discourse. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. To honor our nation and celebrate the right to vote, we have an honored guest here to lead us, Emily Pollock. Emily is a Gold Award Girl Scout. For anyone unfamiliar with this award, it is similar to earning the rank of the Eagle Scout. To earn the Gold Award, Emily worked from start to finish to create a 450 square foot native pollinator garden which encircles the Matthew Eyes track at South Middle School. It's a continuing reminder and example of sustainability and beauty and function living in our community. Emily?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending today's candidate forum. I'm Zoe Velasquez, a student volunteer and member of Prospect Heights BG. The League of Women Voters was nationally founded in 1920 out of the suffragist movement winning women the right to vote. Our League of Women Voters here turns 70 years old this year. League is a nonpartisan organization that in all its years has never supported nor opposed any candidate for office. The League's purpose is to promote responsibility through the informed and active participation of citizens. Providing this forum allows citizens to become better informed about the candidates running for office and the knowledge, skills, and solutions for issues facing the community. We are pleased to offer this service to you. As Shannon mentioned, this is the third forum today. We will be the candidates running for the 54th District of the Illinois House of Representatives. All the candidates are invited by mail, email, phone, or personal delivery before today. The forum will be recorded for its entirety for the League's use in education for the public. The candidates have agreed to this. We will publicly post a link at LWV-AH-MP-BG to the recording on our YouTube page as soon as it's available. Please hold all applause until the end, and please refrain from demonstrating support or opposition of candidate. League is dedicated to civil discourse and politics. Please help us with that mission. Please be respectful of all the candidates and each other. There is a space outside of the room for candidates to speak to the attendees after the forum, and campaign literature will be available on the table in the lobby. No campaign signs may be posted. I'm pleased to introduce our moderator for today's forum, Jan Dorner, who is not a voter within any of the districts of the forum here today.
Thank you. As you heard, my name is Jan Dorner. I'm a member of the Elmhurst League of Women Voters. Please remember to turn off cell phones and other electronic devices. No campaign literature may be passed out in this room, and feel free to put your campaign plan on gun once you leave this room. Note cards and pencils have been provided on which the audience may submit your questions. Questions will be screened only for duplication, clarity, and appropriateness to the office being discussed. Please signal or leave volunteer when your question is ready for submission. Also signal a volunteer if additional note cards are needed. Realize that we may not get to all questions. The League of Women Voters is not responsible for verifying the accuracy of the statements that candidates make in this forum. This forum is for the candidates running for the office of Illinois State Representative for the 53rd District for a term of 2 years. Both candidates participating have agreed to abide by the rules set forth prior to this forum. I'll highlight some of the ground rules. The candidates will present a 2-minute introductory statement. The order determined alphabetically by last name. Then questions will be asked and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond in alternating order. Each candidate may opt to use up to 2 30-minute rebuttals. The candidates are not to interrupt each other and to speak to the audience. Closing statements and continuing alpha rotation will be 90 seconds. LWV members will keep time and candidates will strictly adhere to the time limits. Candidates, please notice the timers right up here. When you see the stop sign, you may finish your sentence. Our candidates this afternoon are Democrat Mary Beth Canty and Republican Michele Hunter. Let's start with candidate Canty's opening statement.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you all of you for being here. I know the Bears kicked off at noon today. I learned as I was knocking doors this afternoon, so thank you for taking time away from that exciting adventure and being with us. I am the state representative in the 54th District. The 54 encompasses parts of Palatine, Arlington Heights, Prospect Heights, Buffalo Grove, Wheeling, and Mount Prospect. I was elected in 2022, and I'm incredibly proud of the work that we have accomplished in the last 2 years. We have worked on getting full-day kindergarten access for all. We have worked on pay transparency. We've worked on ending food deserts. We've started a new department of early childhood, and we've created a child tax credit. We've also brought down the cost of some medications, and we have gotten rid of some junk fees and gotten rid of ghost plans in terms of health insurance. And we want to do more, and I want to do more. I am a local. I live here in Arlington Heights, not terribly far from this very library, and my kids attend schools within District 2025. I've been a resident since 2008. My husband and I moved here from the Southwest, and I like to say we are residents by choice. We didn't grow up here, but we love it here. We love this community. We love everything about it, from our fantastic libraries to our amazing school districts to our neighbors. And I think that's one of the things that makes us amazing here in the Northwest suburbs, and why I'm sure the New York Times recently recognized that the Northwest suburbs of Illinois are the place to be if you're looking to start your family, raise your family, or retire. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Candidate Hunter.
Thank you all. Thank you all for being here today, and thanks to the
There we go. Thank you all so much for being here today, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this candidate forum. I am thrilled that you could be here when you could be doing anything else on a Sunday afternoon. I ran in 2022, and I dusted myself off after I lost that election, and I stayed involved with the community and all my volunteers, and I decided to run again. I am very proud to be your candidate on the ballot in 2024. I'd like to share why I think my background will serve the district so that you can have a real public servant as your state representative. The first thing I'd like to mention is my attorney background. I've been an attorney for over 20 years, public and private sector. And what I did learn in the 14 years that I worked as a law clerk or an appellate judge, that Springfield legislation is not always what it sounds like. I became skilled at interpreting, analyzing it, applying it, and I learned right away that a bill might be entitled something like the Safety Act, when in fact, it actually makes people less safe. And so I realized quite quickly that Springfield legislation needs some interpretation. I also come from a small business background. My parents still have the business that they opened when I was 10 years old to this day. And the last thing I would like to say is that I'm an advocate for children and have written a children's book that's available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and I am licensed to be a adopted and foster parent. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Hunter, can you tell me, was there a defining moment experience that inspired you to run for office?
Absolutely. I am not a politician. I'm an outsider. I am frankly nothing but a concerned citizen who decided to run because I did not like the way Illinois was headed in terms of direction. We don't have a real budget. We don't have a friendly business environment, and we have a spending problem, not a revenue problem. And so when it comes to criminal rights and also just the things that make this country great and this state and community great, when I saw that those were all at stake, I knew it was time to roll up my sleeves, even though, like I said, I'm an outsider, and to get involved. And that is why I decided to run.
Thank you. Candidate Canty.
Thank you so much. I would say that what inspired me to run is actually my family background of service. We have a lot of military service in my family. My father was in the Navy for 24 years, and we always grew up being involved in our communities and making sure that we get back. So in 2019, I ran for the village board. I was motivated by a desire to try and help people in my community. I am not in the military, but I felt like I know how to be an advocate for other people and people who might not have the time to run or might be fearful of running. I think it's important that we are focusing on our communities, making sure that it is affordable to be here, that it's affordable to move in here, that it's affordable to stay here and to age in place in our community. That's what I focus on as a village trustee, and it's part of my work at the state legislature.
Candidate Canty, are you in favor of eliminating Air Illinois? The first time pass rate is 93%. Please elaborate your stance.
I'm sorry, I didn't eliminate one.
Are you in favor of eliminating
Air Illinois, the first time pass rate is 93%. Please elaborate your stance.
So I think as with any program, these are things that we have to be looking at as we examine our state budget, which we do all year long, constantly and consistently through our processes at our appropriations committee hearings and our off-cycle work. So I think that is where we need to focus our attention. If the program is not working, absolutely we should be taking that into consideration and looking to move forward in a different direction.
Could you repeat the question?
Are you in favor of eliminating Air Illinois? The first time pass rate is 93%. Please elaborate your stance.
I'm for any reasonable, common sense legislation that is going to make the community and the state a better place to live. I am always open to expert opinion and just learning from the experts what they have to say and do on any particular subject. So, and that's true also if there's an existing law that needs to be amended. And so, yes, I'm just open to common sense, reasonable legislation.
Thank you. Candidate Hunter, what is Illinois' role in addressing issues at the southern border of our country?
Well, first of all, when we look at our state budget, we are dedicating $2.2 billion to the migrant issue. That is money that our own veterans, homeless, people suffering from disability, is a humanitarian response to the migrants that is denied our own citizens. So I am against incentivizing migrants to come to Illinois to live and are offered health care and schooling and you name it at the cost and expense of our own citizens.
Candidate Canty.
Thank you. I think first and foremost, Illinois needs to work with its federal delegation to make sure that we get the bill passed, the bipartisan bill that would resolve these issues at the appropriate federal level, which is where immigration issues are dealt with. But I think once people are here and they are here, have been coming here because governors in other states have been using human beings as political pawns, I think it is incumbent upon us morally to make sure that people are not dying on our streets. I think that is only the right thing to do. And I think we have to do that in a way that is mindful of the needs of people that are here and working together. We are communities of good neighbors. We are not monsters. We are not going to use people as political pawns, and so we need to remember who we are at our core.
Candidate Canty, please share your ideas for reducing gun violence.
So I am proud that Illinois has some of the strongest gun laws in the state, but we still have a gun problem here. Our laws are only as good as the states that surround us. So I think we need to continue to be a model for surrounding states. I think we need to encourage our federal partners to start working on solutions at the federal level. I know that we still have work to do on Karina's law in order to get guns out of the hands of known domestic abusers who do not have the right to own guns. We know that those homes see the most violence. We know that gun violence is the leading cause of death for children across the United States. So there is more that we need to be doing, including safe storage, encouraging that, not just from an educational perspective, but really thinking about the economics of how we can make that work better for people across the state to encourage responsible gun ownership.
Candidate Hunter.
Chicago has really the strictest gun laws on the books, and for 20 years that hasn't changed the gun violence problem. The reality is we have lots of gun laws on the books, and law enforcement can't keep up with those enforcement levels, let alone pass more legislation. The reality too is that when gun laws are passed that seem great on the surface and they seem like a feel-good response, the reality is they're not going to pass constitutional muster. And the Supreme Court, as an attorney, I can tell you this, they will not be upheld. And so I am for prosecuting gun violators to the fullest extent of the law. And I'm also for investing in resources to help children who are, dealing maybe with mental issues. That's an important thing. But in terms of, I'm not for having more gun laws for law-abiding citizens.
Thank you. Candidate Hunter, what do you see as the biggest cause for the current teacher shortage? And as a member of the legislature, how would you work to address it?
Well, we all know that teachers play a vital role in our children's education, and that is something that is very much worth fostering. I would be open to any way to attract teachers and to keep them. I think that they play one of the most important roles in society, and whatever incentives or whatever we need to do to really attract and keep wonderful teachers, then that's what has to be done. And I would be open to research on that subject or just whatever it takes to really keep. I have a lot of teacher friends. They love what they do, and I know that it's our future's children. That's the future of Illinois.
Thank you. Candidate Canty.
Thank you. I am so lucky to have two kids in District 25 who have had some of the most amazing teachers. But when I knock doors and I talk to teachers, some of the things that come up the most are the expense of getting their education to become a teacher. We oftentimes require them to get a master's degree to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars, and we're not paying them commensurate with that rising cost of education. We have tried to do things at the state level, and we're continuing to do more in terms of MAP grants to help encourage people to go into the field of teaching. We have given additional money to the school districts to try and retain teachers that are good in the field, but we know that there's so much more that we need to do, including re-examining our Tier 2 pension benefit. We know that's putting us on a path to fiscal stability, but we also want to be mindful of the impacts that it's having on allowing us to recruit and retain good teachers.
Thank you. Candidate Canty, what is the responsibility of the Illinois EPA in regards to monitoring data centers?
I think that as with all things, everything that we do towards our future and data centers being one will have an impact on our climate. They take up a lot of energy, they use a lot of resources, and I think it's critically important for the future of Illinois and frankly the future of the planet to make sure that the EPA is empowered to do everything that they need to ensure that our drinking water remains safe, that our lands remain safe, and that we are taking care of the human beings that live here in the state of Illinois. We know that the EPA does great work. I'm deeply troubled by the recent decision at the U.S. Supreme Court overturning Chevron. I'm deeply troubled by what that may do to our government agencies across the U.S., including the Illinois EPA. But I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that they are able to do work that is so critically important to the future of Illinois.
Candidate Hunter.
Everyone wants clean water and clean air, and everyone wants a place to be a safer place to live. And obviously, I'm completely for that. The problem, though, is with a lot of these clean, green energy deals is that what happens is the grid becomes less safe. We close down the facilities that are working well, that already have the cleanest energy. And so a lot of times it's a market push that it cannot survive. And so I am for reasonable common sense legislation, but I'm not for using this green energy to make people not be able to afford basic things in life when the system is still functioning. And so I would support anything reasonable, but I am not for using the market to speed up a process that it can't handle.
Thank you. Candidate Hunter, what more can be done to freeze property taxes for seniors?
Well, you know, Illinois has the worst property tax pretty much like in the country, at least the bottom three. I think that we know that there's a lot of issues with property taxes here. Like I said, Illinois clearly has a spending problem, not a revenue problem. And so I know that there's talk about hiring independent agencies to come in and take a look at property taxes, but that's really just more bureaucracy and more expense at the taxpayers. There will be bearing the shoulder of that expense. And so for me, I think that, basically let's just look at the real budget for what it is and fix that. That's the real answer to this problem.
Candidate Canty.
I am lucky to work with the only senator to move forward on a property tax legislation coming out of the last property tax working group that happened several years ago. And I look forward to working with him on this issue again. As a village trustee, we worked very hard to hold our property tax levy even all 4 years that I was on the board. And I know that they strive to do that each and every year, even though I'm not on the board. Property taxes are probably the most important issue that I hear about every day at the doors. That's why I was proud to pass a bill that pulls out into the Department of Revenue a study of property taxes, not just in the other 101 counties in Illinois outside of Cook County, but surrounding states to figure out exactly what it is that they are doing differently and how can we implement some of those best practices here in the state of Illinois to make things better and even out our tax burdens across the state.
Can I have a rebuttal?
Sure. 30 seconds. Oh, hold on, I'm so sorry.
That
30 seconds.
third party will cost taxpayers a lot just to have that study. And then my opponent has also had lots of unfunded mandates like mandatory kindergarten, like subsidized government-owned grocery stores. Those are going to do nothing but drive up property taxes even more. So if we think that this third party is the solution to answering property tax in Illinois, it's getting rid of unfunded mandates that the taxpayer will have to pay for.
Candidate Canty, under what conditions might you favor using?
Mike.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Candidate Canty.
Mike.
Hello? Yes. Candidate Canty, under what conditions might you favor using tax dollars to fund the project of private corporations or other for-profit organizations, for example, the Chicago Bears or White Sox?
I don't favor that. It's interesting. We do a lot of really cool things across the state. We try and encourage small business, and that's what the grocery store initiative does. It creates a grant program so that independently owned businesses can get some capital money to either upgrade or improve their offerings in their food desert communities. And that's where I think we should be focusing our attention. Roughly 70% of our state economy is based in small businesses. They are the ones who provide the jobs. They have the lasting impact on our local communities, and that's where I think we should be putting our attention. We should not be offering large state dollars to large for-profit corporations such as the Bears. The Bears own the property at Arlington Park. If they can be good neighbors and come here and make things work, that should be great. But part of being a good neighbor includes paying your fair share of property taxes.
Thank you, Candidate Hunter.
The Bears would be an $8 billion project that could come here to Arlington Heights, which would be a huge boon. And so I am for pro-growth agenda for Illinois. I think it would be a boon for the community in Arlington Heights. I agree with my opponent that I don't think that people should be on the hook to pay for it, but I'm absolutely, with my small business background, against subsidized grocery stores and more government when there should be less government. Basically, small businesses employ more people than corporations combined. And so we need to make small business a focus here for any successful community. And I know how to do that with my small business background. But I am not for more government and subsidies of grocery stores or unfunded mandates. I don't think it works.
Candidate Hunter, what are your views regarding women's access to reproductive health care?
Well, currently Illinois has the most liberal abortion laws in the country, pretty much. And I am very concerned about the parental notification part of that, of our law here in Illinois. The bottom line is a 12 or 13-year-old minor can be brought across state lines or be local here by their abuser, whether in a sexual trafficking situation or just an abuser, whatever. They can come over and over and over and have an abortion that taxpayers are paying for without parents having any idea. I am absolutely against no parental notification. I think that parents are the ultimate arbiters of their children and should have the ultimate say. And that is not government's role. Nobody wants to co-parent with the government.
Candidate Canty.
I believe in a full compendium of health care for all people. And for women, that includes access to age-appropriate sex education, access to contraception, access to prenatal care, access to healthy food, to jobs, to housing, to pay transparency. And yes, during the time you are pregnant, that sometimes includes the ability to terminate a pregnancy. You can never know what is going on in someone's life. And it is up to them and their doctor to make the medical decisions that they need. And this applies to abortion, but it applies to any medical decision that you may need to make, male or female. I hope that I have fostered a relationship with my daughter that if she were ever in trouble, she would come to me. I would hope that. And I pray for that every day. But if that is not true for a lot of young women across this state, their homes are not safe. And I want them to be able to get the health care that they need safely. And then we can work with them on how to build that relationship with their family.
Thank you. Candidate Canty, how has the Safety Act changed Illinois' justice system?
I think it changed it in that it has made it a more equitable system. What we've seen in the years since it has been implemented is that overall crime rates have gone down, that we are seeing people who are violent in society working, and then they're coming back. They are making their hearing dates. They are showing up. They are paying their restitution. And paper after paper, we have seen these results. So I think there is still more to be done. It's still early in the process. But I think what we're seeing is a system that is working. I think we heard in 2022 that there was going to be a purge. And judging by how many people are here in this room, I would think that that has not actually happened.
Candidate Hunter.
The first thing I would do in Springfield is to repeal the Safety Act. As I said when I first did my opening my statement, the Safety Act is absolutely not about safety. What the Safety Act does is it handcuffs police and emboldens criminals with no cash bail. What witness is going to come forward and testify against the alleged perpetrator, knowing that perpetrator is going to be on the street that day? Nobody's going to come forward, which makes prosecution hard. And not only that, the problem with the Safety Act is the electronic monitoring system, where 2 days out of the week, detained criminals with ankle bracelets are free to do whatever they want. Cook County Sheriff, a Democrat, Tom Dart, said that there have been a lot of violent, or crimes at least, done during this electronic monitoring. Those are only 2 provisions of the Safety Act that I'm mentioning now that are highly problematic and make everyone less safe.
Candidate Hunter. What can be done to lower medical costs? What can be done to lower medical costs?
Well, I don't think requiring insurance companies to pay for pap smears for men will do that job. I think that medical costs, they make the insurance the bad person, and what we're doing with our budget, like I said, healthcare costs, they're being provided at the tune of $2.2 billion to migrants, and they're receiving those help. So how about we protect our own and use the money that's devoted in the budget at that rate of $2.2 billion to migrants? Like I said, why not we use that for our own citizens, our veterans, our people who have disabled situations or whatever their situation is? We could definitely be lowering medical costs by giving them to our citizens and our own residents of the district.
Candidate Canty.
Thank you. So we've done a lot of work in this space. I think I mentioned earlier that we have half the cost of insulin, we have half the cost of inhalers. We have eliminated ghost plans where your insurance company gives you a list of providers and says these are the only providers that you can go see, but when you reach out to those providers, they're either not accepting new patients or you can't get an appointment for 6 months to a year. Those are ghost plans. We now eliminate those. We are eliminating junk fees, and we are working on getting some legislation across the board to develop a PDAM, a Prescription Drug Affordability Board, which would give the state the power to regulate the cost of medications, and it would require drug manufacturers and others to come before the board if they try and increase the cost of their medication too high, too soon. It would require them to come forward and justify those expenses, thereby bringing down the overall cost of medications to individual communities.
Candidate Canty. What can be done to reduce the use of lawn chemicals at schools and parks? What can be done to reduce the use of lawn chemicals at schools and parks?
You know, I think this is, again, where the Illinois EPA comes into play. I think making sure that they are able to do the research on what is safe to use around humans, around animals, and then working with those local bodies, the school boards, the park district boards, the library boards, really anyone who's out there doing lawn care, they need to be educated and they need to have the resources available to them to make sure that they're using things that are looking forward at protecting the planet while also encouraging them to be able to do the job that they are meant to do. So again, I would look to the Illinois EPA to make sure they are able to do their work in this space.
Candidate Hunter?
I'm sure that there are already quite a few laws on the books when it comes to the EPA for monitoring chemicals and different things for schools. So if there's more that needs to be done, I guess that we could take a look at that. But it seems like the answers are always more government, more control, more invasiveness, when a lot of times what's already on the books is not even being enforced. And so I don't think making a lot more hoops for, agencies in different places to jump through is the answer unless it's obviously or absolutely necessary.
Thank you. Candidate Hunter. This is a lot of questions. Illinois state law obligates the state to increase pension contributions each year from $6.9 billion in 2015, which is 45% funded, to $18.2 billion in 2045, 90% funded. How do you envision this happening?
Well, it's no secret Illinois is suffering a terrible pension crisis that has no way of ending at the way the liabilities across 5 different state agencies are being handled. We were rated bottom by Fish in terms of our pension responsibility and ability to repay it. At this rate, there is no hope in sight. So I am for doing what we need to do and really having a budget for pensions right now is absolutely not attainable. And I am not for changing tiers for the pensions from a 2 to a 1 or whatever they're talking about. It's just going to increase the problem even more. I think what we need to do is just to be honest that the pension problem is completely out of control.
Candidate Canty?
Thank you. So back in 2011, the state legislature implemented the Tier 2 budget, and that actually decreased the benefit that our employees receive and increased the age at which they would have to retire across all sectors. We know that it has some issues, but one thing that we can say for sure is that it has helped us get on a path to financial stability here in the state. We now have a rainy day fund, we have payments that we are able to make, and every year the amount of our budget that is spent on our pension payment has actually decreased. And so I think that's critically important for us to remember that the Supreme Court of Illinois has already said that we cannot abridge the pensions that were created that are what we call Tier 1. But more and more people, we've officially crossed the threshold where more people are in Tier 2 than are in Tier 1. And sometimes the only way through or out is through. So we have to continue to make our payments as we go.
Candidate Canty, what can be done to recycle the plastic campaign lawn signs?
I can't speak to everyone, but this is a thing I'm particularly proud of. We actually get a lot of our signs back. I try to make sure that my signs are legally placed, so you'll see them more likely in the homes of individual human beings and not along the parkway where we lose track of them. And so that's how we're able to get them back at the end of the campaign, and we store them. And in fact, this year I didn't even have to buy any new signs, though you see a lot of them out, because we were able to reuse them year over year. And that's my intent every year, and I think that's the intent of many of my colleagues, is to save that cost and to save the planet.
Candidate Hunter.
I'd like to say I didn't order more signs, but by popular demand I had to. So that's a good problem to have. I'm not at all shy about admitting that. I do save the signs and recycle them to the best extent I can. But and that's not a high priority list for me, to be honest. And I think that when you run strong campaigns and you run strong races, signs are a part of the process.
Candidate Hunter, should crisis pregnancy centers be regulated, and if so, how?
Well, when it comes to, like I said, the abortion laws here in Illinois, they are the most extreme of almost any state in the country. And so in terms of crisis pregnancy centers, I think that I would love to see informed choices for the people who find themselves in that position so they know all their options. When I was a law clerk for an appellate judge, I saw lots of termination of parental rights cases and a lot of adoption reform that needed to happen. And so I would like to see in these crisis centers options for people so they know how many adoptive families are out there waiting for them. And also, like I said, having become a licensed foster adoptive trainer and receiving that licensing, I feel like the more people know their options, the better, and the better the system works.
Candidate Canty.
I would love to see crisis pregnancy centers regulated in the same way that we do other clinics that are offering medical advice and medical treatments. If you go to one of these crisis pregnancy centers and they are offering you an ultrasound or some other type of service, oftentimes they're using people that are not licensed, are not properly trained in how to provide that medical treatment. So if they want to exist in the medical space, I think that they should do that, and then they should be regulated as such.
Thank you. Let's move to closing statements, and let's start with Candidate Canty. 90 seconds.
Again, I just want to thank you all for being here and asking some really interesting questions, some ones that we hadn't heard before, and we do a fair number of events like this. So I appreciate how engaged everyone has been. It has been the honor of my life to represent you on the village board, to represent you down in Springfield, and I look forward to being able to do that again with the support of the people of our communities here in the 54. I look forward to bringing that same fiscal responsible mind that we have in Arlington Heights to Springfield, making sure that we're making our payments, making sure that we are looking at the programs that we offer to ensure that we are keeping Illinois at the top of the U.S. in terms of places to live, work, and play. I'm so proud to be in Illinois. I'm proud every time I get to visit another state. I'm proud when I get to talk about our state. We are doing great things here in Illinois, and particularly in the northwest suburbs. We have an opportunity to be a shining light of hope for so many, and I am excited to be able to bring that sort of joy and forward thinkingness to the state legislature. So thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Hunter, 90 seconds.
You can see the stark contrast between my opponent and I on almost every issue. This is a pivotal election in 2024, and we can see how less government versus more government is quite a theme. There's also a lot of contrast here in terms of this race when it comes to reproductive health, when it comes to small business, when it comes to regulation, when it comes to even pay raises for the legislators for a job that's only 55 days. Not one Republican voted for that. I'm for a real budget. I have a small business background. I do not support unfunded mandates or $2.2 billion of a budget going to migrants. I am reminded of the fact that the budget passed by one vote, and it did not have, it had bipartisan opposition. So the state is in dire straits, as we know. And so we need someone who's an outsider, not a politician, who's reasonable, who has common sense solutions to the problems that are facing Illinois. And that is less, not more government.
Our time is up for this forum. For more